this week's broadcast, it's all about the European Silk Road Summit. In 11 days from now, the online edition of this event takes place, and we have some of the speakers in the show. We also talked to Matthias Vett from DB Netze about the charge for delays on the German railway network. This is RailFreight Live. Good afternoon, it's 30 October. And on 10 and 11 November, the European Silk Road Summit takes place. From our studio in Rotterdam, but also from Chengdu in China, and many other locations on the new Silk Road. In a little while, we'll talk to Alice Defranco from Jeffco and Matthew Shefford from Oxera. But first, we take a look at what is new this week. So Arie van Dijk, you're with us here.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for joining.
No problem.
Arie, maybe we can see what we have developed this week.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm very glad to be back here again. Of course, a lot of exciting developments on the Silk Road and our event, which we are hosting. Of course, due to the pandemic, we were forced to go completely online, and that set us for a big set of new challenges, but also opportunities. And I'm very enthusiastic to announce here today that our program is 100% final. Mm-hmm. All our speakers are confirmed, and we are in the middle of taping some presentations, connecting with a lot of speakers. And we're now taking the next step. So because we have the program complete, we know what we're going to talk about. The next step in online events is meeting the other participants, because of course that is key. Mm-hmm. Program is 50%, we always say, but 50% is also about sharing your knowledge and broadening your network.
Yeah.
So that's why we invested heavily in a new event platform, and we're going to use that with our event. And starting this Monday, so the event will take place in 1.5 weeks, but starting this Monday, our participants already gain access, and they can meet and match already with all the participants who are registered. I'm very enthusiastic about that.
Yeah. And how does that work? Do they have to register, or they're automatically linked to that system?
Yeah, well, of course, they go to our website, europeansilkroadsummit.eu. Then they register for participation. And then next week, they will receive the link to the platform. Yeah. They click, and then they can say, okay, well, I am a Silk Road logistics provider, or I am a shipper, or whatever your expertise is. You choose. And you say, okay, well, I'm interested in dangerous goods or digitalization or the different corridors. I don't know. Whatever you're interested, you can make that visible. And then the system connects you with all other interesting participants. And then you can really meet each other, and you can chat, and you can video, Skype, whatever your preference is. And then really use that way to broaden your network.
Yeah, so the system defines who you could be interested in.
Yeah, well, of course you can connect with everybody you want, also with speakers and so forth. But the system also tries to find, okay, you are a shipper, you are a logistics service provider. Well, wouldn't it be a good idea if you two have a chat and talk about the plans and what's possible?
Okay, so it's like a virtual speed dating, so to say.
Yeah, it's speed dating, but next level, I think, because it's really focused on what your information need is. So it's not just a chat carousel or something like that, like seen with other platforms. It's really trying to make the right match, and finding the right match, I think, is all about the Silk Road Summit, of course.
Yeah, it's quite a unique thing, I think. It's the first time you're going to use this?
Yes, this is the first time we are going to use it in this scope. And it's additionally exciting because we've got a lot of participants from China. They are registering now in big numbers. So very cool to see that we're really building the bridge. Of course, Europe, China, meet each other in our online event. And of course, there are all kind of technical challenges we have there. But so far, it looks very, very good. And I invite all our viewers to participate and build their network even in times of a pandemic. Well, what do you want more?
Just to be clear, participation, you mean you have to participate in the event and then you participate in the platform, right?
Yeah, you participate in the complete, it's one option. You participate in the event. Of course, you'll then get the program with all the streams and all the information. and then also the networking. It's a two-way street.
Yeah. Okay. So this starts next week?
Yes.
Okay. Very exciting. Thank you very much. And then this week we had some filming as well. We were filming in several places this week because we have this idea of going to the speakers where they cannot come to us. The exciting thing to share is that on Monday our camerawoman filmed in Ukraine, in Kiev, to talk to Ukrainian railways. And on Tuesday we visited Maya Bakran-Markish from the European Commission in her office, which was a special treat because she has a wonderful view and a wonderful office. It was nice to see her in her environment for once. And then we had another camera person at that same moment filming in Rostock, Germany. And finally, we visited KLG Europe in Venlo yesterday. And these are all speakers on the program. And we have a speaker on the program in the broadcast. Alice Defranco works as the global head of RailFreight at Defranco. Welcome, Alice.
Hello, good morning, Marjorie.
Good morning, good afternoon here. You will speak about RailFreight for the automotive industry at the summit. Can you maybe tell us why this is an important topic for the conference?
Yes, for sure. First, rail has always been an important transport mode for transporting finished car. But especially on the Silk Road, we see today, for example, I think in the eastbound, 50% of the volume are from the automotive industry. On the westbound, of course, electronic is still the major commodity, but it's automotive cars, end parts, are still on the top 3 of the commodity.
Yeah. And why do you think it's so interesting for the automotive industry to choose rail?
Well, rail is a good balance between transit time and cost. Of course, you know that. But for the automotive industry, they value the reduction of the stock. So this is also due to the transit time, but also the predictable transport mode. So rail is quite reliable, and it's very reliable. And this is very important value for the automotive industry.
Yeah. And you've been in this business for quite some time, working for Defranco. What happened this year that is really new or stands out that you could tell us about at the summit?
Yeah. Well, from our customer first, the automotive industry, they are innovating. They are, of course, going on the electric cars a lot this year. And this has a big impact. So they are very pushing us to always create new solution and new routes. Then I will say also this year we see that the volume are booming. And this is quite a good solution, of course, in terms of number of train. But that has also some impact in terms of technical solution. And I think there is still a lot to do on the operation side for this transport mode, which is quite young. I think 10 years ago, it was not so much rail from China to Europe.
And can you name some examples of an operational challenge?
Well, I think, of course, it's still a lot manual. Track and trace is we can put GPS, but there is no uniformity of any digital track and trace solution.
Okay. You said there's a route under development. You earlier mentioned to me that there is a new route in trial through Russia, if I remember right. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because it's the subject of your topic there, but maybe you can give us a sneak preview.
Yeah, sure. It started this year, I think end of August. The Russian government has published a new policy for improving the transit solution via the Far East port. So we work together with our shareholder, Russian Railway, and we are testing currently this solution on many aspects. We want to test the impact in terms of cost, in terms of transit time, but also the impact on capacity, also the dangerous good capacity that this solution can bring. And the evolution of the price must be more stable. This is totally independent from the Chinese subsidy. So we are checking all these aspects. And I think I will give you more detail in 11 days now.
Yeah. And when you say dangerous goods, why is that relevant for the car industry?
Of course, you understand the electric vehicles is a dangerous good. Yeah. Where each product which contains a lithium battery is classified as a class 9. So when we transport electric car or lithium battery itself, this is a dangerous good, and this is not allowed on the Chinese railway. That's why this solution via Russia, we call it Trans-Russia, is providing a quite innovative solution for this industry.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Far East point. Which Far East point is that?
The port of Vladivostok or Vostochny.
Okay, all right. I will not tempt you to tell us more because, of course, we have to wait until we hear more from you during the summit. Thank you very much for giving us this preview, and see you in 11 days.
Yeah, you're welcome. Have a nice day.
You too. Bye-bye. And another speaker on the program is Matthew Shepard, and he was a consultant in the financing of the broad gauge extension to Košice in Slovakia, and as such he has extensive experience in financing large infrastructure projects. Matthew, welcome.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. You're based in the UK, you're here with us in the show today, and you will speak about financing projects on the new Silk Road. Why is this an important topic for the conference?
So as the volumes of trade continue to grow over time, there's obviously been a challenge in international trade from the global pandemic, but rail volumes transported by rail have continued to grow. There have been record volumes still transiting between Europe and China by rail. The volumes grow, that requires continued investment in infrastructure. As the private finance markets are very willing to invest on the right terms, they will need to take on an increasing role given the constraints on government funding, as governments around the world have taken on increasing levels of debt to fund responses to the COVID pandemic.
All right, so especially in this time, private investment is needed, you're saying?
It is. It will be needed, and there is significant levels of private finance available if the conditions are right, particularly within Europe, where some of the constraints on government spending will be particularly severe going forward.
Yeah. And what are the challenges for private investors to invest in real infrastructure?
So the challenges often revolve around what level of return is available and what risk is a private investor taking. And that can range from anything from what is the cost risk that they're taking through to what are the returns on revenue and what are the revenue streams coming into that scheme in order to enable them to make a return on that private finance.
Right. Are there already a lot of private investors out there investing in the new Silk Road, or is it something that needs to be encouraged?
So there are a lot of investors in infrastructure, private investors in infrastructure, everything from roads, railways, ports, airports, from a variety of different perspectives, sovereign wealth funds, infrastructure funds, and others. Then schemes which are associated with the new Silk Road, there are some private investors, but there's opportunity for more.
Is there such a thing as a scheme associated with, or is it just regular projects that exist and we link it to the new Silk Road?
That is a really important point. In a sense, the new Silk Road is a term for long distance international trade, which can be linked, but many of these projects are developed in response to a particular requirement to unblock a bottleneck, provide a new route, and then as part of the story which goes around, they feed into this new Silk Road, part of this bigger overall international long-distance trading network, which is the new Silk Road.
Yeah. Now, there is this ongoing debate, has been there for a long time, about differences in norms when it comes to investment between Europe and China. What do you think? How do you think this gap could be closed, or these parties could come closer together when it comes to terms for investment?
There are differences both in the level of transparency, and that's particularly important for private investors who need certainty and clarity on the level of risk that they are taking, and also on the time horizon that those investments are made over, where some private investors may have shorter time horizons than others, infrastructure funds potentially having longer term than some others, but also then states perhaps investing for either longer time horizons or reasons which may not be entirely financial. So in terms of how can the gap be closed, I think it's difficult for the private finance companies to invest for reasons other than being transparent and generating a return, albeit an increasing level of consideration around ESG and environmental, sustainable and governance-friendly investments. There is then a big question, I think, on state investment about increasing the levels of transparency about the purposes of those investments and what they expect to get in return.
Yeah. And is it equally possible for people in Europe to invest in China as it is for Chinese people to invest in Europe?
It is, in my experience, it's harder for people in Europe to invest in China than it is for people in China to invest in Europe. There are certainly possibilities for partnerships, but given the different ways, different legislation, different working practices, it is much harder, in my experience, for people in Europe to invest in China than the other way around.
Yeah. Well, this is something you're all experienced in. What is your core theme of your presentation at the summit?
So the theme of my presentation is to explore a little bit more the conditions under which private finance can be brought into infrastructure, rail infrastructure schemes, and how to build on some successful examples from elsewhere.
Yeah. Okay. I'm looking very forward to that, and I'm curious to hear how that can be done. Thank you very much for sharing some knowledge, and we'll see you in 11 days.
Thank you, Marjorie. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Bye-bye. And then when causing delays on the German railways, you will end up paying more for the use of these railways. Germany introduced a performance scheme last year for passenger traffic, and by the end of this year, it will be implemented for freight traffic as well. Now, what does this performance scheme mean? Let's have a look at an interview with Matthias Vett from DB Netze, which was conducted during the Track Access Charges Summit earlier this month. But it's now really time for the interview with Matthias Vett. Matthias.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Perfect.
Thank you very much for joining us. You're here today to tell us a little bit more about the performance scheme in Germany from DB Netze. And you already told me in advance that there is a performance scheme for passengers and RailFreight. So maybe we can start by looking into the passengers' performance scheme.
Perfect. I can short explain you how it works in Germany as a performance scheme in the passenger transport. It's not so complicated. So we have it in work since June 2019. So it's a very new scheme, what we have in Germany in the passenger transport. Before we had a similar system, but with very low incentive charges. Now we're getting high with incentive charges, and we have a bit of change also in the system. So the logic is that IUs and IMs pay for the delay minutes they cause in the end. So this is a very easy explanation of the system, but there are specific more details for it, I think, which are relevant for you. For example, we have thresholds for additional delay minutes. That's what we look at, always at additional delay minutes between stations. And in that case, concerning the threshold, we say we just look at delay minutes between stations which are higher than 3 minutes 30. For example, if there is a train and had only 2 delay minutes caused of, I don't know, a switch problem or something like that, and it's only 2 minutes, we say, okay, we don't have to pay for it. The other way around is the same. So we have to reach 4 minutes. But if you reach the 4 minutes, you have to pay for all 4 minutes in that way. So we have it for locomotive runs, for example, it's 30 minutes because there's another approach for it. It's not so easy for them, for locomotives and so on, to be as punctual as loaded runs. And the second, sorry for that.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so the second requirement beneath a threshold is a delay code. So that's what I mentioned before. We have a look at it, who caused this delay. So is it DB-Net's cost or is it IM cost in the end? And then we have a value for every additional delay minute. And that's where I sent you a few slides. I don't try to set the slides on my desk. Maybe you have the slide.
We have it, yes. We have it.
That's perfect, yeah, because I don't want to be too risky at the moment. I'm glad that everything works now.
We can see it now.
Okay, you can see it now. So if you have a look at the incentive charges that we set for passenger traffic, it's very high. So a few years ago, we talked about 10 euro cent per delay minutes. And for example, now at work-related delay minutes, we talk about 51 euros per delay minute in long-distance passenger traffic. In local passenger traffic, we talk about 16 euros per delay minute. So it's a really high amount, and in my opinion, also a really high incentive in that case. For other network-related delay minutes, we set 1 euro, and also for delays caused by IUs, it's just 1 euro. And in the down, you see the threshold that I explained before.
Yeah. And can you explain why this work-related delay incentive is so high, and the amount is so high?
It is so high because this was it was cost for the system. So when we started the system, we had a discussion with the market and all the IUs and association and so on, and they told us that this work-related delay minutes are very hard for them because they are also avoidable if we have a good plan for construction work. So we don't pay this work-related delay minutes for every construction work. We only pay it if this construction work is not good planned. For example, if we say there's a construction work on a track and it lasts 1 hour extra, and the train goes 1 hour and 20 minutes extra, then we pay for it. We pay for the 20 minutes. We don't pay for the 80 minutes in that case. And they said, please set an extra incentive for this work-related minutes. And that's what we did. And that's what we have to look at in the next year. If it works, this extra incentive, that's what I said in the beginning. It's just since June 2019 that we have this system. So we have to look at it the next year if extra incentive work in the system. And then we have also the opportunity to set other extra incentives. If we recognize, for example, there are always problems with switches and so on. So we are very variable in the system.
Yeah. Okay. And then there is the freight scheme. Maybe you can tell us how that works.
So the freight schemes goes online in that way this December 2020. So we have 1 year lag. Why is that so? We had a very long discussion with the market. That's what we did in freight and in passenger traffic. So we talked to IUs, association, politics, what incentives could work and what should we do or how should the system look like. And that's why we have a lag of 1 year, because also there's a further parameter in the system of freight traffic. So we don't have only the punctuality between stations, so this additional delay minutes. We also have a threshold at the end punctuality at the end station in the end. So I also sent you a chart or slide. I think it's slide 4. Yeah. Then you can see there's always a threshold for different trains. So we have sensitive and non-sensitive. That's what I can explain in a few minutes, if it's okay, because I only have 10 minutes. I know. But we say we always have a look also at the final destination, and if the sensitive train, for example, has less than 30 minutes delay, they don't have to pay anything, and it's the same at non-sensitive. They have to go abroad the border in that way. They have to have 120 minutes, then they pay for every additional delay minute in that case.
Yes, and can you explain how you define sensitive and non-sensitive freight trains?
So sensitive and non-sensitive trains are chosen by the IUs. They have the better look for the operational things, and they have to tell us as DB Netz this train is sensitive or it's not sensitive. So why do we do that? We have always the discussions because, as you can see, the amounts also in freight traffic is very high. It's not as high as in passenger traffic, but they told us that's also about what the market can bear. And if we have always the sensitive trains, this was the original discussion. We only talked about the sensitive way. I also have non-sensitive trains with a lower punctuality in that way, and that's what we have to look at also in the system. So it's a bit more complicated, but it's little more tailor-made for the freight sector.
Yeah, and this is going to be implemented by the end of this year.
Exactly, yeah.
Yes, so we cannot see yet how it works. So exactly. If you look at the passenger scheme, based on what you've seen so far, who pays who more and more often?
So DB Netz is paying more, and IUs are paying more often. It's cost the network-related delays are approximately 10% of the delay minutes, and the IU-related delay minutes are 35%, and there are also neutral delay minutes where nobody can do anything against that. And usually they have to pay more at IUs, but we have the differentiation in the incentive charges as you've seen. So the work-related minutes, for example, in passenger traffic, when we pay 51 euros per delay minute, there's a very high amount which we pay to the IUs. So DB Netz is paying more, and the IUs are paying more often because they have more delay minutes.
Yeah. And then how much do you pay per month, you think, as an infra manager?
Approximately, it's 1.2 million euros every month, which we pay to the IUs. So it differs also, and it's hard to estimate because we had COVID this year. So we started last year, and it's very different this year.
Yeah. Is there, regardless of the fact that there was COVID, is there any conclusion you can have right now on the effectiveness of this scheme?
That's very hard to say because we only had 8 months. We had a look at it, and it's also this delay. The delay minutes are also seasonal. So usually you have to have 1 year as a base where you can look at. Mainly the year without the system, so 2018, for example, and then usually you need a whole year to say, are there any things you have to improve or things you have to change? So at the moment, we just had a look at the delay minutes, but we don't had a real assessment on that. But that's what we do in the next years. So in our network statement, there's a paragraph which says for 2023, we have a look at the passenger scheme and have a discussion also with the market and things that we have to approve. And then we will start in the beginning of 2021 to discuss with the market what you can do.
Yeah, and what is your aim? What do you wish to achieve with this?
So the aim of the system is to rise the operating quality. So if we have malfunctions of switches, of vehicles, and so on, that's things not every time, but sometimes we could avoid. And if we have this commercial incentive in that way, I think it makes sense for us as the infrastructure manager to have a look at it. Why is that switch? Where is it a malfunction? Why do we have to pay, for example, 10,000 euro for that? And that's what we can make better in the future. What we can not do, that's also an important point for me. It's not about capacity management. So we always have to do construction work and so on. There are things we have to do. So we cannot set high amounts of incentive charges for planned or good planned construction works. So it's just the punctuality and operating quality, but not the capacity or planned quality in the end.
Yeah. But when it comes to freight, freight is usually international, so there's more countries involved, and there's also more parties involved. So you have the terminals, the harbor, the ports, which are also often a cause of delay. How do you take all of that in consideration?
I have to say, unfortunately, at that case, so we don't have a look at third country, other infrastructure abroad, and so on, because we don't have the information. So we have a look at DB Netz infrastructure, because our people also say what was the cause of the delay. And that's what I hopefully for the future, because it's also part of the guideline 2012-34, this performance scheme, that many other countries have also this performance scheme, because I think it's a very easy way, in my opinion, to get better. It's not a complicated system. Everybody understands how it happens and how it works.
And with that, we've come to an end of this week's RailFreight Live. You can follow us on YouTube and, of course, read our daily news on the website of railfreight.com. See you next week. Goodbye.
En ook u kunt hier zitten, want deze coronaproof studio is te huur voor uw congres, vergadering of webinar. We hebben alle techniek in huis om u hierbij te helpen. Kijk voor meer informatie op promedia.nl. Ik zie u graag in onze studio.